Don't go live. Hello, everyone. Just getting on the right internet server here. Welcome to our 6th episode on YouTube for GBC Live. Just like same old GBC Live, just about 3% better. Anyways, tonight our guest is Troy Templin, senior tech editor from Velo magazine, part of the Outside family, and Vic will be joining us as well. We're here to talk Mammoth Tough, the Volta, take your questions. If you have any tech, go ahead, just boom, throw them over here in the Q&A department over here. Next week, not too sure if we'll have a show, but if you're listening this far, super important note, we are working on our new GBC kits. The design is pretty finalized. The question is, will they be ready by next Tuesday? If so, I'll preview them here. Be a shorter edition of the show. Hello, other Zach. And you'll have a look at it. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you will get a discount off of these kits. So you can do that, or also support us here on the Super Thanks. Thursday, not a gravel guy, but a short little video coming out that I did right before the Lassen adventure ride. It was the Bike Dog Brewery out of Sacramento. It started out of In Velo Veritas, a bike shop in Old Sac. It was a lot of fun. So we'll be throwing that out there. Just had an idea. I really wish I did a full gravel guide. So a lot of information to throw at you. But let's get on this right now and bring in our guests, Troy and Victor. How's everyone doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Oh, man. I know I just sent a story out that we were wearing a triad of Mammoth Tough shirts. Yes, that's this year's, last year's. And so I decided to change wardrobe. That way I have a clean shirt to wear another week because it is all represented. And hello, Amanda. I know she's did a little pregame show, and she may still be doing the live over there on Instagram. I was listening a little bit to the notes about the event. But before we get into the event, Troy.
Yes.
You were there. And I know you've got your new role at Velo, and tell us what has that entailed so far?
So Velo is part of the Outside group, and it's the kind of the drop bar side of, I'd say, Outside's, cycling division, and we kind of partner with the Pink Bike team and cultivate content around just stuff that everyone's interested in, between racing, tech, and just everything cycling related, from drop bars to commuter bikes to even a few, e-bikes and mountain bikes. So it's a lot of fun.
And have you been able to keep up on covering events, or is it more on the bike side, or?
It's a little bit of everything, between going to a few events, riding bikes, testing equipment, and really just figuring out exactly, Velo was created just about a month after Sea Otter, right at the start of the Tour de France. And we kind of brought a couple of teams together. So it's been a learning experience for us all to come together, between Velo news, cycling tips, some Peloton people, and just bring it all together to create more content that everyone is interested in, rather than having these separate entities that kind of are doing very similar things. So it's been a fun learning experience, and just getting to meet a lot of really cool people, even more than at my previous employer, and just having fun and getting to go to cool events like Mammoth Tough.
Yeah.
Yes, I was so, last year was such a great experience. I couldn't wait to do it again. This year, I had started training probably the day after to do the long course. Then I probably found out about midway in this year that there was a major Jewish holiday that happen to coexist on the same day. Won't tell you which one that is. You'll have to do some R&D on your own. But really disappointed that I missed it. But I already checked the calendar for next year. Should not be a problem unless we print up some really bad calendars next year. But I saw you were on it, and hold on. Who has a question? Oh, what was your excuse, Vic? Sorry.
My excuse is Zach was my ride.
Okay.
Although full disclosure, Troy offered to take me, and I was like, I already. But I do have a legitimate excuse. It was my mom's 82nd birthday on the 15th, and the event was the 16th, and we had a party for my mom on the 16th. So next year, I'll say, Mom, I can't come to your birthday if it's on the same date.
Yeah. 83 just rolls into 84 really
right,
quickly.
Yeah, 83. Who cares about 82 is the big one.
Yeah.
I was looking for an excuse not to go, but couldn't come up with a good one. So I ended up just enjoying the entire trip.
That's great. I wanted to go. I want to bring my van up next time and camp at Sherwin, whatever that's called. And then do the event.
I stayed at the RV park. Took the truck camper and So next year caravan. Okay, my caravan might roll a little slower than your caravan, but
it's okay.
Sure.
It's okay. I'm not in a hurry.
Okay. And we got approval from Amanda, so thank you so much. Was sweating it, but we're here to relive it because I definitely had some major FOMO out there.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And it was funny. Other Zach, who was on here earlier, had sent me pictures, and I was like, no, don't send me pictures. I can't take it. But quickly, I guess what we'll try and do is we'll go over some of the pictures here off of the Mammoth Tough Instagram account. And these are the ones taken by Dakota Snyder. And this looked like it was a pretty perfect day out there, right, Troy?
Yeah, I mean, this looks like it was the quote unquote lead group of the medium course. And I mean, it was weather was really great. At that point where that photo was taken, I had already gotten a flat tire and was still probably standing on the side of the road trying to figure that out. But it was, I mean, overall, I posted some photos on Velo, and I mean, it was beautiful. And I think it was even better for me riding by myself because you just didn't have any distractions, and you could just, soak in, just how amazing the whole area is and the ride itself, which is something I usually don't do. I usually am sitting in the middle or the back end of this group, just hoping that I don't fall off. So it was a nice change for me. It was good. I like it.
Which
super cool way in the back and go slow from now on.
Which super cool test bike did you ride?
I rode the GT grade, the new GT grade, which came out earlier this year. I've ridden it at a few events, but I've had pretty terrible luck all season at gravel events. This one seemed like it started with bad luck, but it turned out to be really good. But overall, I mean, the bike, it's like long, low, fairly slack, really compliant in the back. So I actually installed a dropper post. I don't really need a dropper post, especially for Mammoth Tough, but I have a dropper post installed, which typically will make a bike very uncomfortable because dropper posts don't flex very much, if at all. But the GT grade has these glass fiber seat stays that are extra long because of the triple triangle, and they add a lot of compliance. So having that dropper post, having no flex in the seat post doesn't really affect your compliance on the rear end. So you still get a very comfortable ride. And I mean, I was stoked. It was I would say probably the perfect bike for the course. Maybe I could think of a couple other bikes. The Niner MCR would also be a really good one with how much washboard and just, constant vibration there was on the course this year. But having the GT being considerably lighter than the MCR, it was a really good choice. It was really stable, does well in the sand because of its length, and just helps you maintain speed when the surface doesn't want you to.
I need all the help I can get in the sand, so that sounds good. Sand is my nemesis.
Yeah, I think that, the trick to the sand is keeping your momentum going forward, not trying to oversteer, and just, I would say taking some weight off the handlebars. A lot of people that I saw struggling had a lot of weight on their handlebars, very road-esque kind of positions on their bikes. And, with that extra weight in the front starts to sink and kind of S-turn wherever it wants. And I think sitting up a little bit, sitting back over the back end really helps. So, and there was a lot of sand, which I didn't mind, but there were a lot of people that were having trouble in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed they also had rentals. People could test out the Niners RLT.
Yeah, the Niner and SRAM was there with the Hammerhead computers, which are pretty cool little head units. So those are both really cool. And I think, Amanda can correct me because I kind of showed up on Sunday right as it was starting, but someone who demoed one won a Hammerhead. So like they had no idea. They just called someone up and they're like, walked up and they gave him a Hammerhead computer. So that was pretty cool. So if you signed up for a demo, it automatically put you in a pretty small, a smaller pool of people to win a Hammerhead computer.
Ooh, so that's cool. Nice.
Yeah. I think that thing was like, $300 or $400. So that's a pretty sweet score.
Really nice score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one other thing I want to get into, and I know that this was part of last year's event as well, was the Mammoth Buff Ride run. I'm kind of disappointed this year. I believe they had shortened the distance, making it far easier, making it having to expend a lot less oxygen. Were you at the festivities this year? And
oh yeah, I was.
You also not describe it the same way you did last year. Running is for blankety blanks.
Oh yeah. I don't know if I took this. I didn't take this photo, but I was standing essentially right where this photo was taken. This looks like a Jake. Oh yeah, it is a Jake photo. But it was a new format. You had to drink your first beer right there. So they started with a beer. And last year you did a lap and then grabbed a beer.
Oh, right.
And you kind of like finished with a beer. And I will tell you, this seemed to make it significantly more difficult to start it with a beer, because at least one or two of the people who did pretty well last year struggled this year simply for that fact. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I gotta go check the odds on FanDuel next year.
Yeah,
people took it seriously enough to. Yeah, I definitely. I had fun.
There was the local FedEx guy even showed up and did a couple of laps, so that was pretty cool and fun. Just he, I think, was coming through for a delivery earlier and saw that there was something going on and signed up.
Nice. So there was some late packages.
Yeah, there was probably some very late packages, but it was fun. It was entertaining, and there was a pretty big crowd there this year, which was fun. And I think, overall the vibe of that was really good. I think it was also good that they kind of had mixed everyone together, so it was like one big race rather than two races, which was cool. Yeah.
Going back, and I just apologize. The photos have been showing it from Jake Orness, but I mean, they had a few photographers out here and pretty awesome pictures. But this I'm guessing is on an Owens River Road. I think it's kind of probably about mile 20-25 on the mid course, and no, maybe not that far, but just as you get onto the road, and I think those are the White Mountains in the background, not even the Sierra, but just gorgeous, the scale and everything else. And it looked like, I know the Mammoth Fondo was the week before, and it was wet and drizzly the whole time. But this just looks like fantastic weather.
Yeah, we really scored with the weather. Like you said, Mammoth Grand Fondo was essentially raining after 20 minutes in, pretty heavily, from what David has told me, and he said he was one of the few people that had a rain jacket as well. So, but you know, we had stunning weather, and even better yet, the wind was pretty much to our back all day, which is kind of the opposite of what it typically is. So
Wow, that's
yeah,
a score, because the
yeah,
wind was brutal last year on the
yeah.
way
And
back.
so it was definitely brutal this year, but it was brutal if you were going on the course backwards. So
Oh, that's
there were a
great
few
then.
moments where, I mean, I spent most of the day by myself, but I was moving. And I was not putting down a lot of power, and I was moving. The only downside to having kind of this heavy tailwind to your back was that it felt like kind of static air, where like it was hot in the sun, and with the wind going the same speed that you are, you didn't feel like you were getting any
No cooling.
air across your face or anything. So
Right.
it did feel very warm, even though it was probably in the, highest in the mid 70s. It felt warm with no air, blowing past you. So I wasn't complaining though. They did have a little, course modification for the medium course, which is the course I decided to tackle once again. And between that and the tailwind, I think it was significantly faster overall for most people. I think the fastest times were about the same, but there was a lot more people within under 4 hours than before. On the medium course. The long course, I think, remained fairly similar, and I was told that it was also fairly sandy.
Well, I'm bringing in here, this is the medium course,
Yeah.
and it looks like mostly the first part was pretty similar.
There was a little change, right? Kind of as you enter into the valley there, we made a detour through right there. Yeah, we made a little detour back into the trees off of the main road there. You can kind of see where it does like a full 180-degree turn. Yeah. And back up into the trees, and some rolly fun section there. And then the cut back to the main road there is a double track. I actually posted a photo of the double track there, which that was a good addition, rather than just kind of rolling right into the valley, which you're going to have to ride through anyways. Yeah, but that at the beginning was a new section. And then once you get up to the top of the climb over there, off the tarmac, it essentially just descended all the way down to just before you get to the water. We kind of turned around mid almost to the bottom of that descent, and that was where the first aid station was.
Now, it was funny because I remember last year, the first aid station was about the same distance, and I had brought 4 bottles, heeding Dave's advice to bring extra hydration at that elevation. but I think I only went through 2 bottles, just because the cooler temperatures, not exactly blasting the whole way. And the profile of the first half of the course was pretty much downhill for the greater part, other than that, probably that road climb right there. How were you handling it and everyone else while you were out there?
I was, pretty far off the back. So, because of my flat tire, and I was starting to catch people just before you get on the tarmac. And I actually jumped on, the wheel of the tandem right as we were entering the tarmac there, and which is one of the only sections that had kind of a headwind. So it was nice to have, a little bit of a draft and someone to really set a steady pace, because I had been kind of all over the place as I was trying to take photos and just admiring the scenery, and also trying to move forward from being, so far back. But the general didn't seem like anyone was. A lot of people, actually, when I was at the first aid station, a lot of people just skipped it, which I was surprised. They kind of went down, turned around, and then you just climbed back up this kind of sandy climb. It wasn't too steep, but it definitely had a lot of soft bits in it. And I was surprised at the number of people who just did a U-turn and didn't grab water or anything, just headed back up. So I did grab water, and a couple of snacks, but they didn't have any tire repair things, which is what I was kind of looking for, because I'd used 4 CO2s, which was all I had, and I'd used like 5 of the Stan's darts, and I was still losing a little bit of air. So I was looking for a quick way to fill it up if I needed to at some point. But with, not a big deal. They didn't have anything as far as maintenance wise to help me. So I just figured grab my water and keep moving. And if I was going to have to pump it, it was going to be by a hand pump either way. So might as well just keep moving.
Yeah, I noticed Reed kind of similar to what I did last year. Yeah, 2 bottles, and I did keep my jacket on most of the time.
I kept my jacket. I kept my arm warmers on just to keep me from getting sunburn. I know at altitude you can get sunburned pretty quickly. So I kept them on as long as I could. Once we got that heavy tailwind and I started to heat up, just so I started shedding a couple layers. But overall, I mean, weather was perfect. I mean, I couldn't have asked for any better weather.
And I noticed from the timing there, it said that the fastest time was an hour, and that definitely makes sense. Especially that one section where you're kind of descending through the sandiness. I remember when we were riding with Dave Malwitz of Gravelstoke, he was definitely starting to dry out on that segment, even though we had just had I think that was our second pit stop right there. So, but yeah, it definitely looks like a faster course, a little bit more tarmac than the year before. And
yeah, the climb up after the turnaround, I would say is significantly easier than that climb that we did through the canyon before that. But the long course, I believe, still did the canyon and that descent. So long course stayed kind of true to last year's route through that section. But this year we had that long tarmac descent, which was pretty sweet. I mean, you're going fast. You're going over 40 miles an hour easy. So it was a good extended recovery after doing a little climbing in the sand.
the other thing is, I've never gone to Lake Crowley before. I know that there's those stone columns that fill the area. I know they're a little bit different, hard to get to by bike. but were you able to have much of a view of the lake from the course? Because I remember when we were kind of coming down Benton Crossing Road, we were a little bit off of there. I mean, you're distracted by the Sierra anyway. But
Well, so it's hard to tell, but the kind of down to that turnaround is a pretty good little descent, and it was pretty sandy. So we turned around before you could really get a good view of the water. I mean, on the descent you could see it, but I wasn't stopping to take a photo because you were moving and it was soft, and there was definitely some focus, and with traffic coming back towards you and so much sand, people are picking lines that are close to each other, I would say. The road's wide, but when some of it's, ankle to maybe knee deep sand, you start crossing to the other side of the road to just, have something a little more stable to climb on. So it was definitely a section that it wasn't dangerous by any means, but it was something you needed to pay attention to because you had enough speed that if you got in one of those sand sections and didn't know it was coming, it could be trouble. But it was fun. I enjoyed this route a little more than I enjoyed last year's. Last year's I had fun on that technical downhill with the deep sand. But and that's where the dropper post was nice.
Yeah, that's where I crashed.
But the climb in that canyon, I know it was cool weather last year as well, but the climb in that canyon was warm, and that was something I dreaded last year.
What do you call in the canyon? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
It's called, I don't have it pulled up here, but it was after that kind of first aid station. We descended down, and then we essentially just crossed the street and started climbing back up last year.
That's where you had kind of like the view.
Was it like red? View. It was like the red dirt and the big rocks.
No,
there was a wide section that was really pretty. It was kind of like red clay or red dirt.
This was kind of like a little. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, that was the Casa Diablo mine section, and that was really gorgeous too. But apparently, that was all washed out.
Yeah.
Oh God, Victor must have gotten really angry. Oh,
no. Libby's calling me. She knows. Go ahead.
But the we know what section we're talking about. It was the last one before we came right back onto Benton Crossing. I remember Amanda telling a story that she had taken Yuri Oswald up the opposite direction, which is pretty terrible. But the downhill, I remember when we were doing it last year, there was actually a couple vehicles coming up there, especially in the steeper part. So,
I ran into one of them last year.
Mm-hmm.
On the steep section.
Remember my GBC rule: you're not allowed to crash anything unless I'm recording. Okay, we'll let him back in. David's asking, have you recovered yet?
Have I recovered yet? I'm recovered. I actually felt a lot better this year. Last year I kind of started falling apart at the end of the day. I wasn't out there that long, but this year I didn't even stop at the last aid station at the what do they call it? Something creek.
Hot Creek.
Yeah, I didn't even stop this year, and last year that stop saved me. So this year, between the tailwind and just that kind of chasing momentum that I had, I felt pretty good, and I kept pushing, and I pushed all the way until I got underneath the 395. And then I gave my wife a call to kind of give her the heads up that I was probably, an hour ahead of my scheduled arrival time, and that if her and the girls wanted to be at the finish line when I got there, they should head that direction. And they were still up at the lake. So I kind of slowed the roll a little bit and took that last climb real easy. So didn't push it super hard all the way to the end, which I think made me feel a lot better throughout the rest of the day, and just the overall recovery. Still beat the family to the village. They got there about 5 minutes after I finished, but yeah, it all worked out really well, and it was fun.
Nice.
Overall, I really enjoyed this year. Last year I enjoyed it, but I felt like it was really tough for me, and this year, weird enough, I felt like I would have not had as much fitness, but I think between the weather and everything else, it all came together. So it was good. It was fun.
That's a good day.
Well, quick little question, because like I know you said you avoided the Hot Creek, which I was probably the only person that at this aid station actually went down and shot some pictures. But I know the big issue last year was coming back in that short section on the 395 with a little bit of headwind as we were heading back into town. Was that much better? Because that could have played a big factor.
That was a ripping tailwind, and I was probably doing close to 30 miles an hour.
Whoa.
So the section where you're on the 395, it maybe took 4 minutes, 5 minutes. I mean, we were moving. Even people who were like soft pedaling they were moving. I mean, it was a fast section, and so that's part of the reason why coming through that Hot Creek section, we were getting kind of a side tailwind and right until you kind of detour over to the 395, and just with all the momentum, I was like, hey, if there's a tailwind, I'm taking it all the way home, because you never know, it could switch pretty quickly, and it did. About 2 hours later, the wind direction completely switched. So I know some of the people on the long course probably finished in a pretty heavy tail or headwind. So it was just happened to work out perfectly for me.
Wow. Yeah. And did you, so you brought your family.
Yeah.
What, did you guys stay there from like Thursday to Sunday, or
I was there on Thursday. I went to Devil's Post Pile and Rainbow Falls and did a hike. And
you're sitting right in front of it, right?
Yeah. This is the photo I took.
Oh.
While I was there, but so I did a little hike on Friday. I think that was on Friday. So I got there on Thursday. Yeah, so it was nice. It was nice to spend an extra day or so in Mammoth and get to see the views. The kids showed up on Friday evening after school. They did the school thing, and then they did some little adventure while I was doing the race. And then yeah, it was just nice to have such a chill vibe and have the whole family there, and it's such a family friendly city that it's a lot of fun. Gas is quite expensive in the mountains, though.
Yeah. And just let people know, this isn't like Around the Horn where I keep kicking somebody off like Vic for his answers.
I just fired.
Uh-oh.
See? It's not me.
I think Vic forgot to pay his Wi-Fi bill or something.
No, my wife keeps calling me and she knows. It's never mind. You know how it goes.
You can't use that Ryan Reynolds phone plan. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on.
Mint Mobile?
Yeah.
It was the dude on the corner with the easy up. It's not legit.
So, this is definitely like on our calendar for next year. Maybe not the beer run, because I learned my lesson. I can't pace myself correctly. So other people, please prepare for both, and really looking forward to next year. I was going to say, if people have any questions, go ahead, throw them in the question bar off into the side. one of the other things I promised people we would. And first of all, hats off to Amanda and Dave again. Fantastic people behind the sport. They really care about this. I know that they had a lot of more curveballs this year thrown in with some of the course washing out and everything else. But they really care about the course and this event. And I know Dave really looks deeply into making this a better event, and they both really care about this. And so fantastic event.
I will say that this is one of maybe the only events in kind of the cycling gravel that has such an amazing raffle. I mean, like, I didn't leave. I bought some tickets so that my kids could, do the raffle thing because it's fun and having them check the numbers. But it's pretty amazing at how much stuff and how much they're giving back to the community, through the raffle. So I think that that's a very unique and very cool aspect to the whole thing, and something that I think a lot of people should stick around for Sunday morning and participate in, because there was a lot of really stoked people. I mean, leaving with bikes and Shimano drivetrains and Hammerhead computers and laser helmets. I mean, there was just so much good quality cycling product there. There really wasn't anything there that I would say is like that kind of like back of the shelf. We just need to get rid of this stuff. This was all top shelf, like good quality cycling equipment. So a friend of mine just happened to be in town with his gravel bike, and he went and bought raffle tickets just because he was like, oh, this thing looks super sweet. So just by coincidence, he was in town and I saw him at the RV park, and he hung out on Sunday. So it was pretty cool.
Sweet.
Well, this was a topic Vic and I brought up last week briefly. We wanted to see how it transpired, and I believe this may be non-gravel, but I believe Sepp is probably a person who's done some gravel in this time and a little bit of adventure riding. So, it's been a pretty up and down week covering the Vuelta. I don't know if you have followed it as closely, but I was just wondering if you have any overall thoughts, or is it already water underneath the bridge?
No, not at all. I mean, Durango. I mean, if you live in Durango, you've ridden a mountain bike and probably gravel. So, I would definitely say that it's really cool to see someone like that on the top step anywhere less than the Vuelta. So I think it's really good for U.S. cycling and for kind of the sport in general, but it's also one of those things that there was a lot of drama. There's a lot of drama leading up in the last couple days, and team dynamic. And I mean, that team dynamic's been very debated throughout the entire season with having so many leaders, and it just had another dimension at this. But I think it was really cool to have each of those riders, winning a Grand Tour, and then having it, kind of the last one being a U.S., local guy is really cool. So,
well, what would you say to someone who says that Sepp was gifted the Vuelta? Because that's what people are saying.
They don't have an understanding of what it takes to even be there.
That's what I would say, because people, this guy I know who's a Dane, he's just a Jonas super fan, and which is fine. I mean, you can root wherever you want to, but it's like Sepp helped Primoz and Jonas. They can't win without him, and it works the same way when Sepp is the leader. You need the team. I mean, it's a team sport.
At the end of the day, it's a team sport, right?
Right.
And you rely on your teammates to help you get through days that are tough and to stay in the front on days that you're feeling good. And, there was some drama. I mean, it was Sep's birthday and they dropped him, and they left him to
Yep.
fend for himself. And
Yep.
he still maintained the lead, even though they had a little time gap on him. But I think that kind of, I mean, that's kind of the brutal reality of cycling in general is, the sport just doesn't, it's not waiting around, right? Like if
Mm-mm.
they've got a plan and you're not making it happen that day, shed the weight and move on is kind of the way that cycling is historically treated a lot of athletes. And I think it shows a lot of character for him to come back and work with his team and hold on to that win. So big props, and I think it's really exciting for the sport in general. And hopefully we can get more American cyclists to at the same level. I mean, it's very difficult. Obviously, we know that there's only so many people that can ride at that level and be on those teams. But yeah, having someone that's young and doing well is really cool. Not sure what the team dynamic's going to be next year. I know the team's getting mixed up and people are moving on and that sort of thing. But I think there's just a lot to look forward to between all of those riders. So it's really cool to see just kind of a U.S. local guy at that level. I mean, there's always a few in the group, but to be at the front and to be winning a race of that caliber is something of itself. So
Yeah.
it's really exciting. And I'm not a super like road racing fan. I don't follow it, but for something like this, I'm a fanboy just like everyone else. Like
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to watch the drama. It's really entertaining to watch the comments on the internet. But
The comments are crazy.
the comments are crazy, but I think that's what makes it unique. And like you said, everyone's got their person and their opinion, and that's what is half the fun.
Oh yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Well, I want to follow up that last week I went back and I rewatched stage 6, the stage where Sup won, and he really won that stage. He wasn't gifted that stage. He put an incredible effort in and looked. I'm not saying he's a better rider than the other two, but he definitely put the work in on that stage and deserved that 12 gallons of champagne that he consumed. But
I'm looking for it here. I got an email. Sepkus he has the most KOMs on Strava, achieved the most KOMs on the platform with 808 in total. He accumulated 29,000 kilometers and almost 900 hours in 37 days.
Wow.
So like I get emails with those kind of statistics, and it's, that's more than most people ride in an entire year
or ever.
So, yeah. So, when someone says they were gifted it, there's no,
it's ridiculous. It's laughable. But I knew that was going to be your answer, but I just wanted to say it because it's just so, it shows a total lack of not understanding how it works.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think, I've been very fortunate in the ability to like ride with quite a few pro cyclists throughout, as they do their kind of like recovery rides, and I'm on the absolute rivet. But I like to remind people that like the sprinters are like the people that are kind of falling off the back of those races after they've just done like massive pulls or efforts. They're usually still climbing faster than the fastest people that any of us ride with.
Absolutely.
They're like look like they're crawling up the climb, and they would
Nah.
absolutely be dropping any normal cyclist on a climb. And so
100%. Even the biggest sprinter.
when you see some of the, if you could have the chance to like do a European Grand Fondo where like pro cyclists actually show up and ride at the front pretty hard, because there are, there's money on the table in Europe for some of those. It's pretty incredible to see A, how many people show up, and then B, just the pace that is really happening in these races. I think it's one thing to watch it on TV but to see it and experience it is something on a different level.
Yep. Wow.
Kind of still racing, but getting back to kind of gravel. I know that the World Championships, the Gravel World Championships, are coming up again, beginning of October, and there's definitely a few legitimate riders on the men's and women's. But the question is whether this will actually take. I know previously it just kind of really felt more like a road ride, kind of more of a Strade Bianche rather than something that took a little bit more technical ability. So just wondering if you've delved into this year's event.
I haven't looked into this year's event too much. Betsy at Velo covers a lot of that for us, and she does a really great job. But I think one of the things that I think when I think of gravel, it doesn't have to be technical. It doesn't have to be hard. And like that's one of the things I liked about Mammoth Tough this year was it wasn't really technically hard. There's that like first descent with the kind of the broken tarmac on the medium course, but overall the course is not super technical. It's really it's about riding roads that historically on drop bar bikes weren't an option. And so I think that when we have these world championships or national championship races, they do feel very road-esque because they're roads. I mean, at the end of the day,
simple as that.
In Mammoth, everything we rode was an open road. There was cars on all of the roads, and it's a normal road. It's just not paved. And I think that is for a lot of gravel, we've kind of forgotten that like that's what it's about. It's about just expanding your ability to go to down these roads that on a mountain bike aren't really that fun, and on a road bike aren't, not that they're not possible, they're just not really fun and possible. So I think naturally a lot of the races are going to have a very road dynamic, and that comes with a lot of road drama. And I think that a lot of the one-on-one battles are what make it a little more fun, and the tactics, because there is less of a team aspect when you think of gravel than there is on the road side. So I think that it brings that kind of like mano-a-mano mountain bike type dynamic to the drop bars. And I think that's what makes it entertaining and fun. But there's a couple of people that are just so stinking fast that it just doesn't seem fair for everyone else.
But would it seem weird, like if you show up just to a regular gravel event and somebody's wearing rainbow stripes?
I don't know. I feel like I show up to like an average group ride and there's 3 people with rainbow stripes on. So to me, I think it's cool. I think it's just another dynamic, and it gives the sport more avenues to make athletes and professions for people, and entertainment for the rest of us. So I think it's cool. I think that in the United States we have a lot of unpaved roads, and that's why gravel's getting so massive throughout the entire country. I know that in Europe it is big, but they're riding a lot more trails and a lot of their infrastructure has been set for much, much longer than ours. And so there are a lot more paved roads, even if they're narrow or small or whatever. So I think that that's what makes it so unique in the United States, is that we just have like vast sections of the country that essentially only have 10-15% of it paved, so of the roads that are paved, so it just touches more people.
Speaking of unpaved roads, I'm just curious what, in terms of gravel bikes, have caught your eye in the last year. I know we saw you trotting around. I know Vic got to ride a little bit of the number 22 titanium.
Yep. Which I have returned the bike. I have not finished the review. It's a tough one to write because it's an amazing bike, right? Like, don't get me wrong, it's probably one of the nicest bikes I've ever ridden, but at the same time, it's a very unobtainable bike. It's
Yes.
very expensive.
Super.
And it makes it, tough to relate to the average, to the average cyclist and the average person. I mean, obviously, and I don't want to say they're hard to get, but they're not easy to get either. You've got to wait, and most of them are custom, and I think that's what makes it special. But at the same time, I've worked on it. I've worked on the review for a while, and I keep coming back to it because it's. I don't want it to sound like I don't like the bike, but at the same time, it's a very, very, very expensive bike. And I think putting that in perspective is challenging. So obviously it's there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into it, and that goes a long way. And I think people understand that, but $15,000, $18,000, $20,000, that's a lot of money. That's, it's like all of my cars combined. And yeah, I mean, like, they've got the 3D printed titanium stems. And I mean, like, there's just so much cool stuff going on that I want to make sure that whatever I put out there gives it justice. And I mean, I let you ride it. I mean, what did you think? I mean, I know you said it was a little small.
It was too small for me. No, it was too small, but it rode fantastically well. It's exquisite, but like you said, it's not really relatable for most people. I mean, with this bar stem option, I think is $1,500 by itself.
Yeah.
Right. I think
it might be more than that, but yes.
I paid $1,700 for my Canyon Enduro race, the entire bike. So it's kind of hard to wrap your head around the money, but if you have the money, it definitely should be on your list because it was fantastic.
But yeah, and like their finishes, the finish of the titanium and the cherry coat and the anodizing. I mean, it's next level. I mean, I've been to quite a few production facilities and watched people do that, and this was on a level that, like, even I was trying to figure out how they achieve it. So,
but
yeah.
The ride of it was just like you would expect. It was just smooth and unflappable. It was good. I didn't ride it off road, but some bumpy stuff.
I had road tires and narrow, kind of like more of a road-esque setup on it. But the Drifter does fit. It's kind of like an all-road style. So I think it fits. I have to look at my notes, but I think it fits a 40 with no fenders, which, for a lot of people, that's more than enough.
Wasn't it a Great Divide?
Did it?
I think it was a Great Divide.
Guessing. Was it a Great Divide?
It was a Great Divide.
It was a Great Divide.
Because I wanted to try the Aurora.
Yes.
with the carbon post, but I wasn't going to turn down the Great Divide. So.
Yeah.
It was
so
a Great
Divide, which is their all-road bike, but I
Yes.
had set it up more like the road kind of
Yes.
yeah.
It had the nice MB wheels and the Schwab U1 tires on it. It was sick. I loved it.
Yeah.
But it was a 54. I ride a 56, so it was a little tight on the top two. But we rode it. I rode it around PV. So it's those constant rollers up and down and fast left rights, and it was just wow. It was great. The handling was perfect. The brakes, the group set, everything was great. And everyone was like, "What is that?" I mean, it was snapping necks. People were like breaking their neck.
That's probably one of the things that I think gets me kind of excited is that when you ride it, it's literally stops like the group.
Oh
and
my
everyone
God.
wants to know what it is, and they all want to see it and feel it, and it's one of those bikes that you just don't see very often. And then when you start inspecting it closely, there's just so many little things that just make it better and better and better and better and better that it's really hard to put that into perspective, because then you see the price tag and you're like, ooh, yeah, they probably spent 100 hours putting each of these bikes together or more.
You can see the craftsmanship for sure.
Last question. One other bike somebody had brought up and wanted to mention, and it's just been receiving a lot of accolades lately, is this Vitus Venom. I've actually never. I'm aware of the brand. I don't know if I've actually seen any type of Vitus bike before, but apparently
they are new. They are a little newer to the U.S. and definitely the drop bar segment. But I took a quick spin on one at Sea Otter, but Alvin, one of my coworkers, I think he either has it or it's on its way to him. But it's a pretty sweet bike. They are probably better known for their mountain bikes. But I mean, it looks like they've done a pretty good job. Obviously, I didn't get a lot of time on it, so but I think that they're distributed in the U.S. out of Utah, kind of that Salt Lake, Ogden area, someplace.
Zach, you must have missed it because we saw a whole team at Sea Otter riding those bikes.
Yeah, they had a fairly big booth, but it was mostly there was only a couple of drop bar bikes in there. This being one of them, and they had it in two builds. They had kind of the road one, which you're kind of showing there, and then they had kind of like the all road with the bigger tires and stuff built as well. So it was pretty cool.
Well, I can definitely go on and on with bikes. I mean, this is a bike show. Anyways, as we wrap up, Troy, are you doing any more events for the rest of the year, or are you calling it a year?
There's one fairly challenging local event that I'm not sure I can do physically or mentally, but I really want to. Just haven't had as much training and time on the bike as I would like to take on something like that. I know I've known about it for a long time, but it always seems to sneak up on you. So I don't know. You know the details on that one probably a little better than me, but I really enjoy that mountain range, and that's kind of why I want to do it. But with everything that's going on up there and Angeles Crest being closed, and I know a lot of the water is turned off, I don't know. I'm not sure it's a challenge I want to take on this year.
Is it even doable? Like this, weren't there big road washouts? And I don't even know if it's even.
I think it's always doable.
Is it all passable?
Yeah, I think it's always doable. I think it's just, it comes down to a lot of planning. a lot of, pacing yourself. You go too hard, you get up there and you can't find any water. It's going to be, there's no access for cars to come get you either. So it's one of those things that once you go past a certain point, there's only one way out of there. And making sure that you're in a good place is important. So it's like 200 and some miles, I think, and
220 something,
220 miles, and
222
I'd say nearly 100 of that is, once you're in it, you're in it. There's no real good way out of there. So
there's definitely some outs. And for people that don't know, we're talking about the LA Tourist Race Trans San Gabriel, which, we had a long discussion. I'm going to I had already bought like big tickets to a concert the night before, and a friend.
Excuses, more excuses.
Hey, you could have just gotten in Troy's car and gone to Mammoth Tough, okay?
No, it's my mom's birthday. Nope.
She could have. He was going to take her too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, I actually saw Michael on Sunday at Cicla Via, who was working really hard and supporting free mechanical support to people out there.
Nice.
And I do want to try and make it out there and just see how people are doing. I don't know if that's a cruel thing to do, but good luck to people, because we're only about 10, 11 days away until that starts. So I'll repost the video. The washouts, I think, didn't come to be a big problem. I think there's that one part near Magic Mountain, not the theme park, that washed out a little bit more, that people have to be careful. I don't know how Lytle Creek did, which is just before you get to Baldy. It's your first dirt section. I don't know how that did with the rains. But sometimes walking is actually a good thing to give your other muscles a rest.
I was going to say, sometimes getting off the bike and using some other muscles, especially if you're going to be out there, as long as a lot of people are going to be out there, might be the best choice.
How long do you estimate most people will be out there? Because the cutoff is 36 hours.
Yeah, that's what he says, but
that seems like not enough.
Exactly. Especially if you go to take a quick power nap and you wake up 5-6 hours later.
Right.
So, I don't know. I really think it's going to depend on how much water access there is. I know Pacific Crest Trail, which runs through a lot of that up there, has been having to shuttle in water, on a daily basis. And so, it just depends on, if you can't get the fuel and you can't get the water, then it's going to be a slow trek. But if you can stay hydrated and keep moving, I think it depends on the weather as well. We've had some cooler weather, which I think will help. But we'll see. We'll see, because they've also got some rain in the forecast, so you never know.
Ooh. Oh God!
So
Greek theater.
No way.
Yeah. So we'll see. But and when you're up there, it can be completely different. It can be a completely different weather pattern than what you see down here. So,
typically worse.
You said it, not me.
It's true. High in the mountains, cold,
but
snow,
wind. I think that it's a really cool event, and I think it's a really great idea. And I think that, like any event, this is going to be the first year, so we'll see how it goes, and maybe we'll have like someone finish the thing in 18 hours, and we're like, wasn't that bad. But
okay.
In reality, I think that there's going to be a lot of people close to that cutoff time, and or not, or cutting out early and still having a great ride. I mean, I think that's the important part, is that even if you get through half of it and you come down off the mountain a little early, it's still going to be a pretty epic adventure either way.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the way to look at it. Like, even if you're not going to be able to make it, or, you get so far behind on time, just roll down the mountain in an area where you can and call it. But it's going to be a good adventure any way you look at it. So,
All right.
Well, Troy,
you guys are talking me out of doing it. I just want to go take some photos of all the people suffering up there. Maybe I'll take my e-bike or something up there. And
Sunday morning, that'd be great to see before and after. Anyways, Troy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, dude.
Glad you made it through another tough event, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun, and check out my post on Velo. Next year, my plan is to do the Fondo and Tough. So, and hopefully, I'll have enough fitness that I'll finally do this 107-mile course, and that everyone keeps talking about, that I just let David usually experience. I don't have to deal with
it. David loves it.
Yeah. Better him than me.
I'll add that link to the description underneath so people can read it. So thanks much, and see you out there next time, guys.
Appreciate it. Cheers.
See ya.